Hi there, ladies and gentlemen. Peter Preswick. I want to talk about the Malaysian Airlines commercial flight that went missing in very suspicious circumstances. And I just want to say a few things at the outset. You know, we live in a day and age of incredible technology. We have satellites all over space. We have tracking devices on almost everything, including your mobile phone, cars, telephones, the internet. Commercial airlines rely incredibly heavily on tracking devices to monitor the location of planes to avoid collisions in airspace. We have GPS, global positioning satellites, and the GPS system is owned by the American military. It originated with the American military. So your GPS that you use in your satellite navigation system is actually connected to military satellites. That's just a fact, and you can check that out quite easily. Now, to be told that this aeroplane kind of just mysteriously disappeared is very hard to swallow. It's almost inconceivable. To then also be told that, well, this device inside the plane can simply be switched off at the flick of a switch and disabled so that the plane could not be tracked, I find even more difficult to believe. Although I must say I'm not a technical expert, and I'm sure there are other people that will do research on that, but I find that hard to believe. That seems to me to be a very, very big loophole if somebody wanted to hijack a plane. Now, what I want to talk about is the time frame that's passed, the delays that we've seen. I just find it highly suspicious that there's been an incredible delay, and it's almost as if somebody's been playing for time. So that made me suspicious and thinking, why would it take so long to locate an aircraft, even if it has crashed? I'm convinced that the aircraft will be found relatively quickly in the day and age we live in, as I said, with technology and all the traffic that we have all over the world, shipping and other aircraft, and people traveling extensively all over the world. They would be bound to see something that looked like airplane debris or something like that. I came across a very interesting article by a gentleman called Eric Rush, and it's entitled "What Really Happened to Malaysia Airlines Flight 370," and you'll see there's no question mark after that title. So he's making a statement, and I'm going to tell you what he's talking about. He's referring to a little island called Diego Garcia, which is in the middle of the Indian Ocean, not far from Malaysia. Okay, now what is located at Diego Garcia? Let's have a look at that. What we find at Diego Garcia is a US military airbase. Now the history behind this airbase is the island was basically stolen or taken by force by the British government from the indigenous people of the Chagos Islands, and they established a military base there. So here we have an example of the runways. We see bombers, strategic bombers, big airplanes, two very big airways. There's no doubt that large aircraft can be landed at this base. That's indisputable, and we can see just from looking at Google Images, you're going to find substantial evidence that large aircraft land at this base. There we go. We even have stealth bombers operating at Diego Garcia. Okay, so there's no debate. There are submarines at this base. It's a very, very strategic base because of its location in the Indian Ocean. It basically can be used to strike anywhere, almost anywhere in the world. And here again, we can see how strategic it is, right in the center of the Indian Ocean. Let's have another look at another map. That's not a good one. So there again, we can see where it's located. Now, just to give you a bit more information about this island, Diego Garcia, I came across this article from 2008, and it talks a little bit about how the islanders were kicked off the island, and they lost their right to return to the islands. This was taken to London courts, and of course they lost their right to ever return to the islands, the place of their birth. And of course the islands are very strategic, as I said before, and in this article it tells us that the first ground troops in the Afghan invasion set off from Diego Garcia. Countless bombers have used the base as they've embarked on missions that have killed many civilians in Iraq and Afghanistan, and perhaps most importantly, other planes have arrived bearing precious cargo, allegedly important prisoners in the war on terror. Some, like the Australian David Hicks and Mullah Abdul Salem Zayef, the Taliban ambassadors to Pakistan, were interrogated in the early days of the war on terror in the bounds of ships moored off the coast of Diego Garcia and others. It appears we're holding secret prisons in Diego Garcia itself, and so on. So we can see that there's more to this island than meets the eye, and you will find many articles on the internet relating to the subject. Eric Rush has a theory which is based on information from an informant. I have no idea who his informant is, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to read this blog post, and you can decide for yourself how viable or feasible you think this is, and maybe you want to do your own research. Okay, I'm going to start reading this blog post by Eric Rush, entitled What Really Happened to Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. He starts by saying, it sounds like an expensive cigar, but Diego Garcia is actually a United States military base that we technically rent from the United Kingdom. We, by we, he means the United States. And that is correct. I know for a fact that America does rent Diego Garcia on a long-term lease from the United Kingdom. It's a British territory. At 967 nautical miles southwest from the southern tip of India, it's more or less midway between Indonesia and the African continent. The US Navy operates its Naval Support Facility, NSF, there, which is a naval ship and submarine support base, military air base, as well as a communications and space tracking facility. Take note, a space tracking facility. It also includes a base of operations for the CIA. You'll note there is no question mark at the end of this article's title. So we can see that, so by that he means, he's making a statement as to what really happened to this airline based on the information he has. Now we can see that Diego Garcia in this map is certainly within easy striking distance of Malaysia. So this airliner could easily have been flown there without a doubt. I want to point out too that because this is a communications and space tracking facility, which is the base at Diego Garcia, like I said before, GPS, global positioning satellite or system, was established by the American military. Okay, so everything that we use today, like a GPS in our cars and mobile phones, comes out of that military satellite. Now, he goes on by saying, why so few have postulated that this facility may have played a part in the disappearance of Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 may or may not seem odd at first blush given the circumstances. I mean, it's not a secret base, though clandestine activities conducted there certainly would be. At any rate, I'm told that Diego Garcia is the location to which Flight 370 was diverted. I'm going to read that again. I'm told that Diego Garcia is the location to which Flight 370 was diverted. My source has actually been to Diego Garcia and assures me that you can land a Lockheed C-5 Galaxy there. Now, we've already seen a picture of these bombers that land there and are based there, so there's no doubt about that. Back to the article. Those are the military transport planes that load tanks aboard, and they're just about the size of a Boeing 777. At Diego Garcia, some 20 civilian technical personnel were removed from the aircraft for interrogation. He's now referring to the Malaysian Airlines flight. On March 8, Reuters reported that 20 employees of US chipmaker Freescale Semiconductor were passengers on Flight 370, according to a statement from the company. It is said that these employees traveled regularly between company facilities in Tianjin, China and Kuala Lumpur. It may be presumed that these individuals were the same 20 who were reportedly taken to Diego Garcia for interrogation, although my information holds that the detainees, if you will, were working in their capacities as contractors. Reports earlier this week that the flight plan deviation was programmed into a computer system on board rather than being executed manually by one of the pilots was quite accurate, I am told. The airliner was taken over remotely by US intelligence operatives at the behest of those at the highest levels of our government. So I'm going to repeat that sentence. The airliner was taken over remotely by US intelligence operatives at the behest of those at the highest levels of our government. It has been speculated that the plane was hijacked and the 20 Freescale Semiconductor engineers kidnapped in order that nefarious parties might access a revolutionary software package that could prove invaluable to those in the espionage community. But I've been informed that this is not the case. And here are a couple of reasons I'm inclined to believe so. Whistleblower Edward Snowden was able to purloin thousands of NSA digital files and distribute them and escape the country without involving any other person. I've also heard firsthand of even more intricate and dangerous missions being carried out by less than 3 individuals. No, there would have to be a great deal more involved than a software package to commandeer an airliner, kidnap technical contractors, and then disappear the plane and over 200 passengers, who sadly were most likely murdered for the sake of expediency. The great deal more, I'm told, was rather a revolutionary piece of hardware and not software, and it's not integral to digital data systems, although it is no doubt used in conjunction with them. The engineers were part of a joint US-China effort that resulted in one of the most advanced small gyroscopes for flight ever developed. Flight as in long distance space flight. As you probably know, China has made great strides in the area of spaceflight in recent years, and they're quite proud of it. And considering the Obama administration's intentions to devastate America's economy, enslave her people, and part out her resources to Russia and China, a joint US-China space initiative doesn't seem out of the ordinary. Why? It's as American as McDonald's on a Beijing street corner, right? So what went wrong? Well, apparently the DoD got wind that these engineers, who despite operating under the auspices of Freescale and or other companies were not American nationals, were on their way to abscond to China with their prototypes, which were in the cargo hold of the 777 and other valuable materials, thereby cutting the US out of the program entirely. This is kind of industrial espionage, isn't it? And why not? It's fairly well known in the intelligence community that the Chinese government had absolutely no respect for President Obama, and his telegraphing weak foreign policy all around the world would lend itself to a sudden change of his stripes, ineffectual posturing over Ukraine notwithstanding. Additionally, my understanding is that China technically owned this technology. The US was aiding in its development under a partnership which apparently the Chinese decided to end in a rather ex parte manner. The CIA went into action in concert with the DoD and Boeing engineers. They commandeered Flight 370 en route digitally without the foreknowledge of the pilots or the crew, diverting it to Diego Garcia. I imagine that's where the aircraft made that now infamous and mysterious turn just northeast of Malaysia. So essentially the CIA double-crossed the Chinese before they could double-cross us. The fate of the airliner is an aspect of the story which was not made entirely clear. I understand that there is still a possibility that it has been or will be crashed somewhere along its original flight plan, so that officials can claim having missed it during earlier phases of the massive search. Amidst the tangled wreckage, no one will be able to tell that the passengers had actually been dead for a week or two. Another possibility is that the airliner was later transferred to Pakistan, where its final disposition is anyone's guess. Flight 370 pilots, one of whom being the pro-Islamist Zahira Ahmad Shah, may have been afforded the opportunity to continue on to another Muslim country, blend in and take on a new identity, given the sentiments of those in the current administration. In any case, it was the geeks and the goods that the CIA was after, and I'm led to believe that that's what they got. My understanding is that the foregoing information has been confirmed at the highest levels of our government, although not the current one, if that's cryptic enough for you. At least that's what my source tells me, and they haven't been wrong yet. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I have no way of confirming that this is the case, so I'm putting this information out into cyberspace to get people to think differently and to do some further research. In my mind, it's very feasible because of what I know about undercover operations. There's massive deception taking place in the world and collusion with world governments. There's no question about what is happening in terms of America expanding its operations worldwide under the auspices of the blueprints of the New World Order. And this to me is a very feasible theory. And I'm going to call it a theory for now until such time that we know more. So do your homework. Maybe you'll find more information that I haven't come across. Please feel free to share that with me. And I just want to say that my thoughts are with these passengers who were so suddenly involved in a very dramatic event. Whether it was a crash or whether it was a CIA operation, nonetheless, it's very dramatic and very disturbing and very sad.